The string lights cast a warm glow over the garage, illuminating the mismatched furniture and the long folding tables covered in snacks, drinks, and various board games. Music played softly from a Bluetooth speaker in the corner, a classic rock playlist that could appeal to anyone, from teenagers to those who had seen the first Woodstock. The air smelled faintly of burgers, grilled onions, and the lingering aroma of charcoal from the backyard. It was Saturday evening, and the party had been in full swing for a couple of hours. I leaned against the counter, watching my neighbors laugh and mingle, and I felt a rare, contented peace. I had spent days preparing. Folding chairs were arranged just right, string lights strung at even intervals, and the playlist curated meticulously to avoid anything too offensive or loud. The garage doors were propped open, letting in a gentle breeze that carried the laughter outside without disturbing the street too much. Most importantly, I knew this party would be memorable not just because of the food or the music, but because of the guests I had invited. Off-duty cops from the local precinct had agreed to come, casual and friendly, ready to enjoy a night without the stress of citations, patrols, or paperwork. I had made it clear, no politics, no work talk, just relaxation. The first unexpected knock came at around 8, and I nearly spilled my soda in surprise. Who could that be? I muttered, wiping my hand on a paper towel. The garage doors were wide open, so I wasn't expecting anyone from the neighborhood to just barge in. I walked over and opened the door to find Karen, the infamous HOA officer, or, more accurately, self-appointed watchdog, standing there, her posture rigid, a phone pressed to her ear. "I told you they'd have a party here," she whispered loudly to whoever was on the other end. "It's completely unacceptable." I raised an eyebrow, smiling politely. She glared, arms crossed, her stilettos clicking sharply against the driveway. "I just wanted to let you know. I've called 911. There's a massive gathering in your garage. People are clearly violating noise ordinances, parking rules, and, well, frankly, community decency." I laughed, a soft chuckle that caught a few guests' attention. "Oh, that's proactive of you. You know, Karen, it's just a small get-together. It's nothing crazy." "Small," she snapped. Before I could respond, her gaze fell across the garage, where some of the guests had congregated near the grill. Her eyes widened just slightly, but I noticed itchy, thought they were random neighbors, maybe a few teens she didn't recognize. She didn't see the patches on the jackets tucked in backpacks, the faint hints of badges under loose shirts, or the unmistakable air of trained eyes casually. I smiled wider. "Karen, you know how these things go. People have fun. They talk, they eat. Nothing illegal." promise. Her hand tightened on the phone, fingers curling as she muttered to the dispatcher. Yes, we need officers to respond immediately. There's, she paused, lowering her voice, suspicious activity, potential public disturbance. I decided it was time for a little gentle humor. You know, Karen, I said, stepping closer, you might want to be careful. Some of my guests are actually off-duty police officers. Her eyebrows shot up in a perfect arch, disbelief written across her face. Off? What? I nodded, casually, gesturing inside. Yep. They're here to relax, not enforce the law. I could see her internal gears turning. On one hand, she wanted to proceed with her call, to assert authority, to maintain control of the HOA narrative. On the other, she had the sudden realization that her emergency might not end well. The first siren arrived a few minutes later. Red and blue lights bouncing across the driveway, reflecting off the garage door like some cinematic horror scene. Karen smiled tightly, thinking she had summoned reinforcements, but I noticed the officers stepping out of the patrol cars. They were not responding to a complaint. They were my guests, in uniform, but off-duty, their badges tucked in pockets, their arms free of citations. Karen, I called, waving politely. Meet my friends. Everyone, this is the HOA's very own neighborhood watchdog. The officers recognized each other instantly, nodding greetings. The tension in the garage evaporated like morning mist, replaced by laughter and jokes. One of them, a tall man named Greg, shook his head in amusement. Karen, relax. We're off-duty. Karen looked flustered, her confidence crumbling under the weight of reality. I just what? I asked kindly, stepping closer. You called 911 on a garage party full of people who are literally trained to enforce the law. Her face reddened, and she glanced around, realizing the absurdity. Some of the younger neighbors outside who had gathered to see the commotion were now whispering and snickering. A few teens hid behind a bush, phones poised to capture the chaos. Ma'am, Greg said, his voice calm but firm. Everything's fine, Mink. No laws are being broken. You don't need to escalate this. Karen's hand quivered over the phone, and after a moment, she muttered into the receiver, "A false alarm. Everything is fine. Never mind." She ended the call, her triumph evaporating instantly. I gestured toward the cooler. Want a soda, Karen? Maybe a burger. She shook her head, lips pressed tight. No, thank you. I smiled, invitingly. Come on, just sit. It's a casual party. No citations, no complaints, just food and music. Karen hesitated, then slowly, reluctantly, stepped inside. She perched awkwardly on a folding chair near the corner, her heels clicking against the concrete floor as she shifted. The guests, sensing the tension release, raised their drinks in a silent toast. Some of the cops chuckled quietly, sharing subtle glances that suggested this was going to be a story retold for years. The party continued, music flowing, burgers flipping, laughter echoing. Karen, initially stiff, gradually relaxed slightly as she realized there was no threat. She sat quietly, observing the camaraderie, trying to maintain some semblance of authority while slowly being absorbed into the human experience around her. I walked over to the grill, flipping burgers, and one of the officers leaned against the counter next to me. "You knew she'd call, didn't you?" he asked with a grin. I laughed. Honestly, I expected it. Karen can't resist drama. But I didn't think she'd show up herself. "She didn't know we'd be here," he said, eyes twinkling. "Perfect setup." I nodded. "Exactly. It's all about timing and optics. Plus, it's hilarious." Later in the evening, Karen attempted small talk, her voice quieter, more measured. "So, you all work at the police station?" "Yes," said one of the guests, sipping a soda. "But tonight we're off duty. Just enjoying some peace, like everyone else here." Karen tilted her head, processing. "I see. Well, it is a nice setup you have here." "Thanks," I said, clapping her lightly on the shoulder. "Glad you could join. No one's here to make trouble." A couple of neighbors joined in, bringing homemade snacks, and the garage became a hub of community, humor, and unexpected friendship. Karen, despite herself, contributed a story about a local HOA meeting gone wrong. Her voice finally relaxed enough to elicit a few chuckles. By the end of the night, the music wound down, and most of the guests had left, waving and laughing. Karen lingered, staring at the garage, a mixture of irritation and reluctant amusement on her face. "I suppose it wasn't as bad as I imagined," she admitted, finally letting her shoulders relax. I smiled. "Sometimes things aren't as bad as they seem, Karen. People just need to talk, laugh, and maybe share a burger once in a while." She nodded, slowly, finally standing. I suppose you're right. Maybe I'll reconsider calling next time. Or just come join us," I said with a grin. "There's always room for one more." She laughed, a little hesitantly, and for the first time that night, I saw her human side, not the enforcer, not the critic, just someone realizing that life could be lighter, even amidst rules and regulations. The garage lights dimmed, the string lights twinkled softly, and the evening ended quietly, leaving behind laughter, echoes, lingering smells of grilled food, and a story that would be retold countless times in the neighborhood. Karen, off her pedestal, but not humiliated, had witnessed the chaos turned camaraderie. The party turned lesson, and perhaps the first step toward seeing that sometimes letting people be was its own law. As I locked the garage door later, I reflected on the night. It wasn't just about the party, or the off-duty cops, or even Karen's dramatic intervention. It was about the way people connected when they weren't weighed down by authority, expectation, or fear. It was about understanding, laughter, and the occasional irony that life has a way of balancing itself out, sometimes with perfect comedic timing. By the time I turned off the last string of lights, the night air was calm, and the neighborhood was quiet once more. Somewhere down the street, Karen's car door clicked, and I imagined her recounting the absurdity to anyone who would listen, perhaps even learning a little humility along the way. And as for me, I knew that next weekend, when another party rolled around, I might just invite Karen again. This time, she might even stay for a burger.